Tigra is a champion that I have been in love with basically ever since I got my hands on her. Like, she was a very early 6-star for my account, and I learned her pretty fast, honestly. I know she's a very difficult champion for a lot of people, but I personally learned her relatively fast, which I'm very thankful for because it propelled me to do a lot of absolutely ridiculous stuff with her. And in this video, you're going to see a lot of that. And this video is only 40 minutes. And I say only when it's just like top 2 longest videos I've ever made. But I'm saying only because this is only rank 5 Ascended Tigra fights. If I added all the fights of content that I've done with her at rank 4 or rank 4 Ascended and added it to this would be like over a 2-hour video, like easily. But since I'm sticking with only rank 5 Ascended stuff, we're still getting a 40-minute video. And this is the most fights I have ever put into one video. And it took me a long time to get ready for this, but I finally have it, and I'm extremely excited to show it to you. So without further ado, let's start in Realm of Legends. And we're going to see a general Tigra rotation, which there's not really much to say, because for a Tigra rotation, you counter opponents' heavies and specials with your heavy, and then throw SP2. That's literally the only thing you have to do with Tigra. If your senses start to fall off, you throw an SP1. That is basically your backup plan, assuming fights don't die in like 1 or 2 SP2s. So I throw my SP2 here, we do a bunch of ruptures, we do a bunch of burst damage, and then Winter Soldier is already almost down to half health after 1 SP2, and we're gonna counter his special 1 again with our miss, and then we have like 9 or 8 ruptures when throwing this SP2, so it does plenty of damage. And then we're gonna counter his SP1 once again, and that is going to be basically all she wrote with 1 more SP2. So very easy first fight, and that was extremely fast. That was like 49 seconds or around 50 seconds for 51. Okay, so I was close. And next up, we're going to fight Captain Marvel, and ironically, this isn't even that great of a matchup for Tigra because it's almost impossible to counter either of Captain Marvel's special attacks and then place ruptures on them because she recovers really fast and also does not push herself forward at all, so you kind of have to struggle to actually counter it. So we're going to be countering heavies most of the fight. And I'm going to block this SP1, but I don't get the counter. And then I drop my SP2 into her block just because I panicked. But also, it did a lot of damage, and we also had the unblockable to save us, which is pretty great. I didn't get the counter there. I am trying my best to see if I can block counter it, but it's not working out too well for me. So I just bait a heavy here, and I'm going to drop the SP2, and that's going to do a lot of damage. It brings her from 50% all the way down to like 16, and the ruptures are still ticking, so we need to bait a heavy attack and then SP1, and that's gonna be it. So those are the 2 Realm of Legends fights. Always usually fun to start a showcase video with these because those are the fights people want to see the most usually. But now we're gonna do a lot of Battlegrounds fights. I have so many Battlegrounds fights in this video, and it feels like they all go very fast, because they do. And this Hercules is from a meta where you gain extra power by preventing a buff with Neutralize, so that is worth mentioning that some of these fights might go a little bit faster than normal, just because of that node. However, if it is a really big impact on the fight, I will mention it, otherwise I won't, because usually it's just like, okay, the fight would have lasted like 3 or 5 more seconds without it. And if that's not the case, I will tell you, you don't have to tell me, because I understand. I understand that this is a meta that's actively helping her. And the fight's already over. I barely even got to talk about how that one went. But this is actually from the current meta. The fights in this video vary from so many different metas, but this one is definitely the current one with Tenacity. And this is definitely a much harder meta for Tigra. And Tigra is a little bit hindered by this meta, but also not too much, because The only reason that those ruptures getting purified is really a big deal is when you're throwing the SP2 and you just don't have a lot of them, because you want as many ruptures as possible when throwing that SP2. And as you saw there, I got some really unlucky RNG before the SP2 with the ruptures, and I only had like 3 or 4 of them before throwing it. But at the same time, we're still going to do the job, and this rank 5 ascended Doctor Doom is just dead in less than 60 seconds with a non-science champ, which is actually pretty good if I do say so myself. Next up is Maestro, rank 5 ascended Maestro. This is also from the current meta with Tenacity, and I'm pretty sure I did get pretty decent Tenacity RNG in this one. So we're gonna just bait and counter Maestro's heavy attack, and Maestro is hard for Tigra. He legitimately is a difficult matchup for her, just because once he gets that glancing, it just kind of sucks. And of course he throws his SP1 into my block, meaning I can't activate as many ruptures as I'd like because AI. But otherwise, you know, this fight's, you know, he's almost dead. It's just the fact that we have to deal with the glancing, meaning the fight does take a little while to finish off. And that is definitely an issue. He's definitely designed in a way that Tigra struggles with on purpose because, you know, he's meant to be a meta defender, and if Tigra could just wipe the floor with him, then he's not a meta defender anymore. So I do think that is a very good thing that he is designed to counter Tigra, but I do like how she can still kind of work. And I have taken a lot of Maestros in War and a lot of Maestros in Battlegrounds still with Tigra. It's very difficult, but it still can work, just like you saw there with that 57-second takedown. So next up is Havok. And Havok, obviously, you want to counter this guy by having an armor up buff, except Tigra doesn't have that. So instead, we're going to use the plan B for fighting Havok, which is kill him fast. Because that is the second way to counter Havok, is to kill him fast, because if you kill him too fast, then he can't really place a lot of plasma on you, and you really don't lose any health other than block damage, because you are going to see that I do take most of my health from block damage, or actually all of my health from block damage, because you do have to bait and counter heavy attacks. I don't like to counter his SP2 in Battlegrounds, however, I do think you can. It's just a little iffy on if you can counter it or not. So I throw my SP1 here. He's going to throw one more SP2, and then I'm going to bait and counter a heavy attack to finish him off, I believe. And that is going to be Havok in a little over 60 seconds. And that is the Tenacity meta once again. Yeah, so not too bad, especially when it's a Sig 200 Havok that I don't have an armor up for. Really good, honestly. So next up is Kindred, also Tenacity meta. I feel like I actually did a good job and placed a lot of the Tenacity meta fights early in the video. Apparently I just had that one Herc fight that wasn't early in the video, so that's a little weird, but it's okay. Here we have Kindred. Ideally I don't let Kindred throw that heavy attack he threw, but it's not too bad. It just means I'm gonna probably have to take a little bit of degen damage in the route, but also we're gonna mitigate that a lot because I set myself up for success, which is the key thing to do against Kindred. We actually took like 1% from degen damage. Yeah, so when fighting Kindred, if you set yourself up for success, you just win. That was a rank 2 Kindred in 41 seconds, which is completely absurd if you ask me. With a non-science champ at least. So next up, we're fighting Hulkling. And this is from the meta where you neutralize and get power. So we literally cycle SP2s in this fight just because of how crazy the attack modifier was for Tigra when Hulkling is getting neutralized every time we touch him. So I'm going to counter his SP1 and then he dies. Like, it's just that simple. We throw this SP2, he's dead. We're going to get a second SP2 just because of the attack modifier. But also, if you don't kill him in 25 seconds like you did here, in a regular meta, you kill him in 30 to 35 because Tigra literally might be the best Hulkling counter in the game. She just rips him apart so easily. So yeah. Next up is Bishop, and this is, I think, the power gain meta. Yeah, it's the power gain meta. I remember. And the strategy against Bishop is just push him to SP2 with your SP1, make him miss, and then you just throw a couple heavies, and then it's GG. Like, we're going to go for heavy attack here, and then we go for a special 2, and then if the special 2 doesn't kill him, we throw an SP1 or a relic, and summary, the SP1 did kill him, and that is a bishop in like 30 seconds. I don't know why I didn't get the final score at the end of that, so. Alright, next up we have Serpent, and Serpent is a defender that, just like Maestro, is designed with Tigra in mind, to where he is going to have counter tools for her. And one of the big ones is his resistance up. That is definitely the big one, but also the fear debuff definitely messes with Tigra a lot, because it will shut down her unblockable after the first hit, and that means you have less opportunities to place Rupture on the SP2. On the other hand, Tigra is still really good for Serpent because you can miss his SP2 if you neutralize his True Focus, which you usually do. And also, I can dash in and counter Serpent's SP2, which I just didn't because this was a fight that I recorded back when I was still learning how to fight Serpent. You legitimately can just dash in and then counter his SP2. You don't need to back up like I did. So I made that fight way more painful for myself than I needed to, and that could have been like 50 seconds with full health. I just messed up. And next up, we're going to be fighting Iron Man Infinity War. And this is a somewhat difficult matchup for Tigra, just because you can't counter his special attacks. I'm pretty sure you can't counter Iron Man's special attacks with literally anyone, which is one of the most annoying things about Iron Man, honestly. I think this guy is low-key a really good defender. It's just when champs like Hulkling and Gauntlet exist, he is a lot easier to take. It's just, if your opponent can't get Hulkling or Gauntlet, not Tigra, but Iron Man is legitimately really annoying. But I barely got to talk about the fight because I was talking about Iron Man the whole time. That was 39 seconds. Believe it was the power gain meta, and I've taken him in a meta without power gain where it was like 45 to 50 seconds. So that definitely was a bit of an impact, but also just a couple more seconds later if you don't have that power gain. So next up is going to be against an Onslaught. This is the power gain meta, but again, Onslaught I have taken without the power gain meta, and it goes almost as fast. This is definitely one where the power gain does help a lot because it means I can cycle SP2s a lot better, and ideally against Onslaught you just don't let him throw a special attack with Tigra. So it is a little bit rough, but also we just did so much damage, and actually power gain kind of did nothing there, did it? Because we didn't need the power gain at all. What was I saying? That's a 37-second Tigra fight, and we didn't even need it. So never mind, I kind of lied to you guys. But next up is Absorbing Man, and this is the power gain meta. Definitely taken a lot of Absorbing Mans without it, so it's not too big a deal. The only thing you need to be too interested in is making sure you don't throw your special 2 with him in the Uru form, because Rupture is all physical damage, and the burst damage that you get when applying the Ruptures is physical damage. So that is definitely a big deal, and you don't want him to have that when you throw your damage special. So 37-second Absorbing Man fight, really, really easy. Next up is going to be Sauron, and this is the power gain meta too, I believe. Sauron without a tech champion is pretty difficult, but Tigra makes him not difficult because you just miss his special attacks like this, and then you just go in and then kill him. So yeah, this is a tricky special to punish because you have to be very fast about it. I've just gotten a lot of practice against Sauron, and I've taken Saurons in war with Tigra before, and that just goes to show I am comfortable enough to get that dash in timed properly. It just is something that you do have to take a lot of practice in, and 35-second Sauron fight is definitely pretty great. Next up is against a Nick Fury, and this fight literally means nothing because I'm only putting this in the video because a very funny interaction happened. In a normal meta, Tigra takes Nick Fury in 70 to 80 seconds. If you're lucky, maybe like 65, but there was just a really funny interaction in this fight that I felt was worth showing. This is also only a rank 4 Nick, I believe. Maybe it's a rank 5. I can't really tell, but it might be rank 5 actually. but either way, we are punching down. And when you're fighting Nick with Tigra in a normal meta, you want to bait and counter his heavy attack, and then you throw the SP2. You basically never want to let him throw an SP1. And there was the funny interaction that it had the Chum in the Waters node, and I dexed at the exact perfect frame to trigger it, to where once he got into his second life, I had the heal block on at that exact frame, and then his second life was prevented. I just thought that was really, really funny, and wanted to show it off. So we are moving into Alliance War gameplay, which is definitely my second favorite place to play Tigra, first obviously being Battlegrounds. And this is against a Terrax on node 16, and this has an indefinite physical resist node, meaning Tigra's damage is very, very hindered in this fight. However, she's just good for Terrax because Terrax is always aggressive, meaning you're placing so many ruptures, and you are going to take chip damage in this fight just because it's Terrax, so you will always take chip damage basically, unless you're playing like Absorbing Man, and then you pretty much never do in Magma form. But yeah, this Terrax is just about dead. We did take chip damage again, but only like 18% of our health was lost, and he went down really fast because Tigra, even with that physical resist, is still going to put in a lot of work. So next up is Onslaught on node 49, and this is without Crush. I have taken Onslaught with Crush before, and I will show that in the exact next fight actually. But I only got to use Tigra for one war when Ex Magica was around, just because, you know, the Cosmics were everywhere and Tigra was unusable against them because of how the tactic was built. But I did get this one war with Tigra, and one of those fights included this Onslaught because we did see him on node 49 at one point. And it's not going exactly how I want it to early in the fight, but also it does go pretty well for me. I need to bait and counter his heavy attack, but now I'm getting brute forced. It's not going very well, but also we can dex the SP1. I do have my SP1 dexes down pretty well. I did not mean to block that, but it's okay. I'm gonna dex his SP1 once again, and I just need to get back into the rhythm of the fight because I lost it a little bit early. I throw my other SP1 to get my senses back, and now I have my rhythm back. I just need to bait some heavy attacks, and I can miss his SP1 here just because of the fact that I did not have a Neuroshock on me, because the Neuroshock is what prevents miss. And this is going really, really well. I need to bait one more heavy attack, and then he's just gonna die from the SP2, and then we throw it, and yeah, he's dead. So Tigra is legitimately, I think, the best option for Onslaught on node 49. She just destroys him, and that was a bad fight. Here is a good fight where everything goes ideal. This is in the Crush meta, meaning I am rooted during his special one, if he happens to throw it, that is, and I can only miss it if I do not have a Neuroshock on me, which a lot of times I will, sometimes I won't. We just have to see. I'm baiting heavy attacks, and then I'm gonna go for my SP2 right here, and let's see, I have 2 Neuros on me. I need to bait one more heavy attack, and then I'm going to be okay. And I get the counter right there, and now he's dead. Like, that's literally it. If this doesn't kill him, an SP1 will. And I throw the SP1. That's how an ideal Tigra versus Onslaught on 49 fight goes. That was with Crush, and I didn't even bait one special attack. So basically perfection for that one. Next up is Thing on node 37. And this is also with Crush. Crush does not need to be here. In fact, well, it doesn't necessarily make the fight easier or harder. It does mean you are rooted during Thing's special attacks, but that does mean that I do get to keep him in the corner a bit more, which is helpful. Also, this Thing plays with recoils. I didn't realize that. But I've taken this fight a bunch of times without him having recoils, so it doesn't really matter. It's just, you know, a little bit different here. But the only thing you need to know about the Tigra versus Thing matchup is you shouldn't ever push him to 15 rock stacks and then let your neutralize fall off. Also, that was stupid. But if the neutralize falls off, you cannot hit him. You just have to bait a special attack, which is fine. Because obviously if he's at 15, then you want him throwing a special attack at 15 anyway. But at the same time, if he's at 15 and the neutralize is still active, if you hit him again, it doesn't matter because he is going to consume them and pseudo go unstoppable, except your neutralize prevents it, so he can't go unstoppable. And that is basically how you take Thing on almost any node. Like that one was on 37, where my ruptures and neutralize are making the regen irrelevant, but I've taken Thing on like node 10, node 47 with Tigra before. It doesn't have to be specifically that one. And here is Gorr on node 42. This was a fight I would have loved to take with Tigra last season when Gorr was like always on 42. It's just I couldn't because the tactic was fueled by miss, probably again a lot with Tigra in mind, so I couldn't really do that. And also I don't really want to parry Gorr ever, so obviously in this fight I think I only parried at the very start, and then that was basically it. I'm going to counter his special 1, and then we're going to go for my own SP1, I believe. Oh, I'm going to get an intercept actually, so I don't have to. He throws his SP1 here, he dies, but I decided to throw my SP2 instead just to keep my senses up. And even though that was right into protection, the last hit did a lot of burst damage at least, and then we're going to kill him right after, just like that. So, very nice fight. And then next up, we're going to be going against... What am I fighting? Okay, this is Maestro on node 49. Another fight that I think Tigra might legitimately be the best option for. And that is even... Dude, the AI is so bad for this one. He's at like 7 of his charges already, and I'm just landing my first heavy attack. What is he doing? Okay. But anyway, this fight is rough. It's difficult, but I made it work. And that's just something that was very hard to do. I should be refreshing my senses because I just let them fall off. Why did I do that, man? I should have just thrown an SB1. But anyway, the problem with this fight is just he gets the glancing and then it's just like, okay, I can't really do anything now, especially when my senses are gone. So what I have to do is just let him go to his cosmic mode and then kill him. After that, I need to spam a bunch of knockdowns to get him low again. Also, throwing this SB2 was a mistake. I should not have done that. Yeah, that was a dumb move because I don't want to pause his charge gain at this point. I want him to get into overload as soon as possible. But anyway, I'm countering heavy attacks here for some reason. And then once he's in cosmic mode, I want to knock him down as much as possible. He's going to root me. Which is a good thing, because I can counter his special 1 easier. It does mean I take radiation damage, and I am getting low on health, but it's okay. Throw my SP1 here. Because I chained it off of a basic attack, I didn't get the sense up, which is stupid, because that's just how glancing works, but it's no big deal. I'm gonna throw one more SP1, and then we're gonna be basically all set to nuke him from here. I need to bait a couple heavy attacks, and he's just dead. And then I'm going to counter his SP1 with my SP1, and then go for a couple heavy attacks, and again, he's just going to die from here. So, I have actually died to this fight before. It's not like a great matchup, just because Maestro on 49 is very hard. But it works, and that's what matters. So, rank 3 Maestro, too. So if you fight a little bit of a lower rank one, which you probably won't be in Tier 1 War, which I'm playing in, that's definitely a lot easier. And you know what? There are probably better options for Maestro on 49 now that I think about it. I know I've done that with Kindred before, and he did really, really well. Or they did very, very well. So that's cool. And yeah, next up we're fighting Surfer on Node 3. This is in off-season of this current tactic, so this is not with X Magicka. I did have this off-season fight that I felt was pretty cool, so basically in this fight, you counter Surfer's SP1 by dashing in and then missing the little hit at the end, and then, you know, you just kind of lock him down. Like, the threat of this fight is if he gains an armor, So we just won't let him do that because of Neutralize. And you probably won't be seeing this fight a lot in season because obviously X Magic is gone, so like what's the point anymore? But also, I got hit by the tail end of that SP2, it was bad, but it's not a big deal. And then that Surfer's down, and then next up we're going to be fighting Super Skrull on that node, or the next node, that would be node 12, yeah, that's the number, and Super Skrull is pretty easy for Tigra. I barely even bothered to look at the nodes because I was like, prevent armor and win, that's kind of how it works. Except I do make a mistake in this fight, and that is going to be hitting his block when I don't have a Neutralize, so he does gain an armor, meaning I did not do what I was supposed to do, which was not let him get armors. And you cannot miss Skrull's SP1, even though it looks like you could, because he just... Oh, I got stand your grounded, that's why. That's why that happened. Okay, I thought I was just dumb and hit his block without the Neutralize. I got stand your grounded, which obviously is definitely a thing that happens a lot in War. Definitely something you have to be careful of. But that's just the risk of playing Tigra, and it's a risk I'm willing to take like 9 times out of 10. So I think like the only time I wouldn't do that is maybe against like a Red Skull, where getting stand your ground is just awful. But also Tigra's very good for Red Skull. It's just you have to play it a little bit differently because of stand your ground existing. So next up is a rank 3 Bishop on node 33. Yeah, 33. And this is the one where you get prowess, or he gets prowess, and then he throws unblockable specials. Also, that was so stupid by the AI. I hate when they do that. But the little light intercept you don't need. But again, Bishop is really easy for Tigra. You just have to make sure he doesn't throw his SP1, and then you can miss his SP2 with ease, which I don't know about everyone else, but if you're like me, you are bad at dexing Bishop's SP2, so a free miss or a free evade with like someone with like Silk is game changing for me, and those are like my favorite Bishop counters just because I cannot stand trying to dex this thing. So we just, you know, duck. That's we duck, and then he can't hit me somehow. Oh man, physics. Okay. Anyway, next up we're going to be doing some event quest fights, Thrumbreaker event quest. And Tigra is just good for the event quest because her damage scales with Fury so well to where it's a lot of damage. Anyway, we're fighting Moondragon here, which is not the best Tigra matchup just because you can counter both her special attacks. It's just you do have to deal with this stupid little falter, which makes our senses take longer, and or senses start falling off, I should say. But it's not too big a deal. It's just, you know, especially when the fight goes so fast that also, who cares? Because this SB2 just nukes her off the face of the planet. So, yeah, that went pretty well. Next up, we're going to be fighting Captain Marvel, I believe. This is one of the dumbest fights I've ever done because I played it so badly. But I included it in the video because it was at least slightly funny. Well, let's see what happens. It was just a lot of complete nonsense, I believe. I'm trying to bait her heavy attack to counter it, but she doesn't feel like throwing it immediately. She just wants to dash back, which is annoying, but it is what it is. Yeah, full combo's my block. That's cool. And then I went for a light attack and whiffed it. And now I'm just like, well, I guess I'm throwing my SP2 now. And then I'm going to try to counter her SP2. And it doesn't work because she pushes herself back, obviously. And then I'm going to go for my heavy attack. She doesn't dash in, because why would she? She doesn't dash in again, because why would she? She throws her SB1, and I misdex it. And then I'm going to throw my SB1, and I think I'm going to bait a heavy attack here. And she still just dashes back, and then she throws heavy attack, and then I eat it. And I'm like, dude, this is completely ridiculous. Oh, and here I misdex the SB1 again. Like, this is one of the dumbest fights. Oh, I missed an intercept, too. I can't even stop talking because of how much utter nonsense happens. Man, that was so bad. Oh my gosh. Okay. Last up is going to be Thor Ragnarok. I feel like I did something stupid in this one, too. Let's just see what happens. Okay, so we go in. His heavy attack is usually an easy counter. It's kind of iffy on what he changed the heavy attack off of. So we're gonna see a little bit of that here. I know the SP1 is an easy counter if I am smart about it. For some reason, I'm not always good at countering Thor's SP1. Or his special 2 even. I don't know. He's just a weird champ to fight sometimes. Like, there, I got hit. It's just weird how the spacing works when, like, he hits your block before a heavy, but he doesn't hit your block before a heavy. It's going to be 2 completely different spacings. And that's the thing for, like, a lot of heavy attacks. Like, Nova is another one that you do need to be really cautious about because of how they work. Either way, the last 10 minutes of this video are going to be endgame bosses, starting with Doctor Doom from the Grandmaster's Gauntlet, and this is the fight with Micro Reflect and Size Matters, and Tigra is a size small champ, meaning she's getting glanced almost all the time. However, Tigra is a champ that also doesn't care about getting her basics glanced because who cares? We just get the heavy attack, and that's the big deal. So we need the heavy attack, and then we win. So that's nice. We're throwing the SP2. Obviously, I've shown you how to do Tigra versus Doom before, so this is going to be very similar. He almost like dexed my heavy attack there. That was kind of crazy. But it's okay. My senses are definitely getting close to falling off, but I am going to refresh them relatively soon. I cancel my heavy into my special 2 just so I don't go red. And then I'm going to throw my relic immediately after the SP1, which means he can't throw his SP1, because that is the worst thing that can happen in this fight is that Doom throws an SP1. If he does block the relic, it's usually not too big a deal because we're throwing it for the sole purpose of making sure he doesn't throw an SP1 to begin with. And it's also just a chance at not taking block damage to anti-bait it, so I will take that if I can. Throw an SP1 there to refresh my other sense, and then I finally took a blocked hit. But we're going to bait his SP2, he throws it, we dash in, we counter it, and then we're going to throw another SP2 in just a second. But here, he throws his SP1 before I could, and then I make the mistake of missing it because that pushed me red, which I didn't want. Going red with Tigra is not necessarily a bad thing for longer fights. Obviously, shorter fights, it's just like, oh my gosh, did that really have to happen? Longer fights, it's not terrible because it places an indefinite rupture, which re-triggers itself every time you inflict another rupture, I believe that's how it works, which just means a lot more damage, but also you don't really want it too often. For longer fights, again, I can see the purpose of it, but here, don't really wish I did it, so. Next up, we're going to be fighting Guantlet Terrax. This is one of the dumbest fights I've ever done, just because it goes, like, so fast. And you saw me take that Terrax in War earlier, and I've told you how, like, Tigra is just good for Terrax because of how aggro he is. And when you fight aggro AI like this, you can just do completely stupid stuff like that, where I just counter his dash attack with my heavy, which it works like 90% of the time. Sometimes it won't because he's stupid, but this works for also like Weapon X, it's not just Terrax. Also, AI like that can happen too because of just the AI being stupid, which does completely ruin a fight like you saw there. But also, he was almost dead. I'm going to redo the fight just because I wanted to get the actual solo. But we're going to do the same thing there. Again, that's like the 10% chance where it fails. You do have to be aware of stuff like that actually happening. Risk I was willing to take because content. So, he's going to dash in. I throw unblockable SP2 still. And then it just does crazy damage. We're going to counter his dash attacks with our heavies again. And then we throw another SP2. We're at almost like 20 ruptures. There's 20. There's 21. 22 ruptures. So many ruptures, man. And this is like a kill before you get killed kind of fight with almost anyone you take. Again, probably aside from Absorbing Man. It's a very rough fight, but Tigra just is a damage machine, so it doesn't matter. So next up, we're going to be fighting Eternity of Pain Hercules. And this is a fight with Force of Will, meaning we don't place neutralizes, which is great because obviously you want neutralizes because Tigra's entire kit evolves around placing the neutralize. However, we can still do a pretty good job in this fight just because Tigra is a champ that once you get in her rhythm, the opponent just feels locked down. And that is gonna be how this fight goes. We get him in the corner and he's locked down. So we're gonna be trying to do a lot of damage with Footloose if we can help it, with our Orange Sense if we can help it. Ideally he dashes at me, so I actually place Ruptures when I'm spamming heavies in the corner. He just doesn't always do that because it's the recharge node, so the AI is always more passive than usual because they have to gain that power, they decided. So here, just the holding block, man, it hurts so much, but it's okay, it just happens. But I'm gonna throw my SB1 here, got my Orange Sense back, so I actually do damage, and we do a bunch more heavy attacks, and we trigger Footloose when he does dash at me, which is pretty cool. And here he decides to actually be aggressive, and then once he got the indestructible, he decided to not to, but that's fine. I got caught there somehow, but it's no big deal. And I need him to throw a special attack. He finally does, and I'm gonna go for the counter here. But the concussions caught my sense, which sucks. Ability accuracy reduction is definitely Tigra's biggest weakness, in my opinion, because it shuts down everything. Her neutralize, her ruptures, her sense triggers, all the fun stuff that Tigra has just gets kind of shut down, so it does kind of suck, but it's okay, because you're not running into too many fights with ability accuracy reduction, at least not all the time. So here Herc just doesn't want to throw the special, but finally he does. I'm gaining power, and then I want to counter a special attack, gain some more power, throw my SB1. Unfortunately the indestructible just came back, so it was kind of not worth it, but also we're doing fine. It's just a slow and steady fight. This was a stream clip of my run for the Tigra emote, where I had to take all of Eternity of Pain Acceptance with just Tigra and Jabari Panther. So I did have 3 solos on the road there. It was this Herc, the Warlock, and the Terrax. I'm going to be showing all 3 of those, and then that's going to be the end of the video. I could have showed Necropolis fights if I cared enough, but I've never gotten a Necropolis solo with Tigra, even though I know you can. I didn't want to, so I'm not. Oh well. Either way, this Herc is just about dead, and he throws his SB2 there, which is just delaying the inevitable, because we get the counter and then kill him with a nice claw scratch right there. So next up, Eternity of Pain Warlock. You have to turn your willpower off for this fight to be soloable, I think, and I did, so that definitely helped. Basically, in this fight, you have to do 2 things. 1, remove his armor, and 2, get the guaranteed crit buff from intercepting, and then throw the SP2, because he only takes damage from crits, and you cannot crit Warlock on special attacks if he has an armor up. So we have to nullify that armor up, and because it's Power Shield, our basics won't do any damage. But with the Tigra and Jabari Panther synergy, you nullify an armor up, or just nullify a buff, I believe, when you throw an unblockable attack on your specials. So that is how this fight works. You don't even need to keep your senses up, because the only thing you're worried about is preventing that armor up and throwing the SP2, or just SP1 even if you want to, with the guaranteed crit up. Obviously, ability accuracy reduction from his infection do make this a bit annoying. However, if you can keep that neutralize active when Warlock is going to get his armor back, then you're kind of just big chillin', so it's not too big a deal. We need to bait and counter his SP2s. I don't really like pushing Warlock to SP1 because I don't know the dex, and you can't really counter it because he recovers so fast. So I'm throwing my SP2 here, and then the SP1, I believe, is going to finish the job. And yeah, it's going to be just like that. 1 more claw scratch, and he is dead. So last fight of the video is going to be the quickest 800,000 health ever. this Terrax just stood no chance. It has dash vulnerability, meaning if you throw your SP2 with him dashing at you, he is just going to get absolutely annihilated, and it's a very fun time. So we're going to let his rock field fall off pretty soon, and then we are going to be going for SP2s. I believe I do take a little bit of that damage. Maybe not. We'll see. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't. Okay, that's cool. And that SP2 just destroyed him. It was pretty crazy. And then we're going to special intercept with only one rupture. And that's going to be all we needed because he's just dead with an SP1 right after. And that is the biggest showcase I've ever done. The most fights I've ever put into one video. That is my rank 5 Ascended Tigra showcase. I hope this video was all you wanted to see and more. I put a lot of effort into this one, so if you liked the video, do please hit the like button if you feel like it, hit the subscribe button if you feel like it, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.